If you're in the UK, good evening. If you're in the US or Canada, good afternoon. If you're in Australia or Japan, though, good morning. On today's show, I speak to a guy who's got 16 years' experience, 8 countries, 4 continents, 1,800 and plus matches, and the exact last thing he says on his Twitter, he's not finished. Am I right there?
Yeah, that's correct. You're right on the money there. Yeah, although I'm just about to close 17 years, to be fair, as
Okay,
of late
okay.
August.
So we've got loads to talk about, but first, intern, roll the intro. And I'm delighted to be joined by the one and only Nathan Cruz. How are we, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you very much, Liam. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
I am very, very well, mate. It's been a long week, obviously, at work and stuff like that. But that's the aim of the jobs, right?
Yeah, I can relate. I can relate.
Anything exciting this week at all, or just general working?
Yeah, just in general. I go on holiday next week to the United States for a couple of weeks. So this past Wednesday, last night, in fact, was the like my last training session for like 3 weeks with the students. So that was kind of cool. But like I said, I take that every Wednesday that class. So yeah, it's just just standard week, and then we've got Coventry this Sunday for Wrestle Carnival and the HMV. So yeah, just making sure my gear's washed and everything's ready for that as well. Need to meal prep for it as well for the day. So yeah, just busy as usual.
And is it washed? Is it all ready? Are you all ready to go?
Yeah, that pretty well. One set of gear is at least. The other set of gear, the trunks are getting like altered, so that I'm waffling. I'm ready. I'll be all good.
That's good. That's good. So yeah, obviously, purpose of today's show is obviously about you, really. So we've got obviously loads of stuff to go through. I say this to every one of my guests, and obviously, if there's anything on this list you don't want to speak or you don't feel comfortable talking about, you just say next question. We move on. Does that sound all right?
Thank you.
Not a problem. So, first question, obviously, I've got today is I'll start. How did you actually get into wrestling?
So when I was a kid, my uncle used to. We never had Sky Television at my house, but my uncle did. So he used to make me like a little master tape, and it'd have like all my favorite cartoons, like Batman, Spider Man, X-Men, Power Rangers, and it would have had WWF Superstars. I imagine that would have been the show at this time because I would have been about 3, 4 years old, somewhere in that region. And my earliest memory of it would have been on that tape and just seeing some of the superstars from then. So I I remember a man in pink, so that would have been Brett, I'd imagine. I remember the British Bulldog because he was the only British one, and my dad was like, "Oh, he's British." And I remember the Undertaker because like such a memorable character, right? And and as I got older, like my dad watched it as well with me, and like my dad would find it when it'd be on. Sometimes it'd be just on, like it's just something my dad had on. So I just remember watching wrestling from a very young age, and it was just there. Like I can't pinpoint the moment that I first sat down and started watching wrestling. It was just something that was consistently there. Um, and then when I got a little older, and I was about 10 years old, like it was just like any other interest just fell to the wayside, and it was like my obsession. I absolutely loved it. Like I was so in love with everything about it, and it was at that age. I remember it very well watching WrestleMania 17 and just after the Undertaker, because I was a big Undertaker guy, after he wins and he looks out in his hometown in the Astrodome's like 63,000 people, his blood's trickling down his head. He goes, "This is my fucking yard." And at that moment, I knew then, I don't just want to be a fan of this. I want to do this one day. Like, this is the best thing in the world to me. And yeah, that'd be where my absolute love for it, because that is what it is. It's a love for it. That's where it kind of began.
Awesome, awesome. So, some promotion, obviously, you've worked for now is obviously sorry, let's try that again. NGW, New Generation Wrestling. I mean, obviously, you're a very popular guy in there. I mean, obviously, I've been watching some of the stuff. I mean, what's that like for you working there?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love NGW. From seeing it evolve and grow over the years, from when it first began in a community centre in Hull, and was just trying to find its way to where it ended up when we was on local television in so many different parts of the country. We was doing every single Butlins campsite, and we was visiting places like Liverpool. Like it was branching outside of Hull, and then to know that that brand began in Hull and very firmly got behind me and helped me so much in my career, from giving me the right people to learn from in the ring and work against, or just following the right direction, or giving me an opportunity to be creative and show what I can really do in regards to storytelling. That company's been so good to me. Like I can't, I honestly don't believe I would have carried on without NGW as long as I have done, for my career, because at one time they paid me a full time wage. Like I had a contract deal with NGW for a number of years prior to the pandemic, which enabled me to full time be a full time professional wrestler still, but actually, actually budget for things, like, and not just live show by show as I had been for years prior to that. Like I actually had like a fixed amount, and I could really, work on some life stuff. Yeah, I could sing their praises all day. And anytime I go out to the Hull City Hall for them in particular, I mean that venue I used to go watch All Star Wrestling in as a kid, and me and Matty used to go together, me and Matt Myers, and so then to go from watching that, and I've wrestled there for All Star as well, but then when NGW is built, for example, in 2017, the cage match between me and Myers, we sold it out. To go out and see that and experience that and know that you've helped contribute to that, and it was just the coolest thing on earth. Like I've had so many good moments and in Hull City Hall for NGW. Like I say, I could spend an entire podcast just on NGW alone. Like I love that company. They're one of the best, one of the most professional run organizations in the country, bar none as well. Like they're so fine tuned with what he wants, and what he wants to achieve. Is rich, and it's just a joy to work for.
But yeah, obviously when I did the research, I'm like, wait, that guy's the actual. I think is he the producer or is the booker or something along the lines? Mark Lebeck.
Yeah. His roles like varied over the years. But like if he's had a partner pretty much throughout. There's been like the odd spell where he's been on his own and he's been a partner, but he's back on doing it on his own again. But he's just resilient, creative, stroke of genius, stroke of a pain in the ass, and I'm sure he'll say the same about me. But I love you, Rich.
Dear. And obviously, the one promotion, obviously, I know you from quite well is obviously 1PW. So they've been back obviously a year. You've obviously had matches against Hammerstone, Morrison. You obviously had the triple threat at Devil's Jaw. I mean, that's some really big matches when you think about it. You've got to be happy at that.
Yeah, I mean they've all been incredible. Like everything, to the experience of seeing that show, particularly the second one that we did at Doncaster, and seeing the setup, and just like I remember speaking to some of the import guys in the back, and they said like it's hard to call this just an indie show. Like this feels like a super card show. Like it feels something special. Like they really felt it, and that was cool to hear them get that same experience, especially when it's like people like Frank Kazarian, who have been around for so long, and experienced so much and done so much big stuff in this profession. For them to have that same feeling that we were still having that was awesome. And it was just every single the stuff that I remember the most from it that I've really enjoyed so far is all the stuff with D'Lo. Like he's just getting to know him better as a person for one thing, and also just to sit under that learning tree still. As long as I've done it, I always say you'll never stop learning, and there's always going to be someone who's done it for even longer, right? In D'Lo's case, so to take those little golden bits and nugget when we're chatting about wrestling, and I'm like, oh man, completely loved all of that. It's just been great. Just days that you just look forward to so much because you just know that it's everything what pro wrestling you kind of felt like it was going to be at that level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So one tournament, obviously, which sticks out for me was I was looking for research for this was Basic Progress Wrestling, the Super Strong Style 16 tournament. So you did quite well in this. You obviously faced Will Ospreay. I'll not talk about what happened after that, but what's it like being in that tournament? Because obviously this is something new to me I've seen.
Right, okay. I mean, it was a homecoming for me in some ways. Like, obviously, I was the first Progress champion back in 2012, and then there's just been so much of my career there that I've loved. Like, genuinely, like all the stuff that I did with the Origin, like I felt like that was some of my best villain work at that time, and like we were so connected with the audience and how they hated us, and yeah, just some great stuff. And like, and I just had to, I like, and it was true what I said. Like, I had to take some time away from Progress because of everything that happened with my WWE medical, and then them kind of having a relationship with WWE. I kind of felt it was there was some mixing going on there in the sense of like it was watering down into the booking, and I wasn't in a good headspace at all because of what had just happened, and I needed to get away from it because I could just feel myself becoming bitter and resentful, and I didn't want to be difficult to work with. So it was like the right thing for me to do was to leave. So to get the invite to come back now, especially after I have gone on a lot of self improvement over the last few years, and to get the invite now and to go back and just now I get to really appreciate it because before even the first runs, I was always thinking about, oh, this will look good for WWE, and because of my entire tunnel vision was getting to the WWE. Now I'm actually appreciating it for what it is, and then to go in the ring with one of, if not the best professional wrestler on earth today in Will, and I'll I'll fight that case because he's absolutely phenomenal, and to experience being in there with him, it was just incredible. Like I was so happy, and same for Lycos as well. I won't take anything. I'm Maggot. I can't take anything away from my opponents that weekend. But Will and getting to be back in the ballroom for the first time was against Will the night before we were in the dome. So to return to the ballroom and then it's me and Will, and it was like, oh man, like a pair of guys that kind of helped get Progress on the map. And to see obviously the success he's had, it was just amazing. It was just one of my. It's like since lockdown and coming back to wrestling, like it's one of my favorite things that I've done. I've had a lot of those since coming back, to be fair, because I'm enjoying the moment more. Like I say, I'm not thinking about this will impress such and such. I'm actually thinking about go out there and enjoy it. Like do it for what it is. Like just enjoy it. And I am now, like, and I think that's why I'm having so many of these moments where I'm like, oh, I think that might be my favorite in my career now. Like, they're starting to happen more and more frequently because I'm being a lot more present of what I'm getting to do because it's still a privilege no matter on what level you get to do it at.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you mentioned WWE there. Is this where obviously you became friends with FTR, or is this somewhere else you've obviously met these guys?
So no, in 2012, Cash Wheeler, then wrestling under the name of Stephen Walters, came over to the UK to work for Brian Dixon for the summer, and I was on Brian Dixon's All Star full time team since 2010 and through to the end of 2013. And so yeah, we got to spend a bit of time together in 2012. I just hit it off with him straight away. I was like, oh, I'd like to see him again. It was cool, it was Dan. And then the following year, sure as hell, he's back. And this time, like that year was 2013, and NGW had written a storyline for me to take a leave of absence, and I'd just been the big villain. And then the storyline was written for me to come back to be the top babyface. And at the time, I was very critical of myself. I know Nathan Cruz as a villain. I know him and what he's like in Progress, where I can push the envelope a bit more. I know what he's like at Butlins crowd, where I know it's safe stuff. I know it's NGW and it can be creative. But as a babyface, I'm kind of weak at this. I kind of knew like I need to get better. And obviously, when you work for All Star Wrestling in those summer seasons, you are wrestling 6 weeks straight, and you'll pretty much wrestle every day, most days, twice. Like the run that me and Dan got put on against each other, we was wrestling twice on the Tuesday, twice on the Wednesday, 3 times on the Thursday, once on the Friday, twice on the Saturday, 3 on the Sunday. Like that was like, yeah, and like we did that 2 weeks out of the 6. I remember Dean Allmark was on that every single week, and he loved it. I'm looking at him, Dean. Now you've done this for so long, mate. I'm dying here. But yeah, so basically, because I wanted to work on becoming a better babyface, like Brian said, well, yeah, I've got plenty of Americans coming over, and like the year before, like Dan and I had said, like, it'd be cool if we got to work. So essentially, I was working with I was either working against Dan or I was working against John Schuyler, who's in Impact Wrestling, and the three of us just formed like a really good bond that holds up to this day. As I mentioned, I'm off to the United States in a couple of weeks, and I'll be seeing them both and spending some time with them that I can't wait for. And it's just it's just something like the big thing for me with Dan is that he's the same guy that I met 10 years ago. Like he's so down to earth, and I've told him this multiple times. He inspires me not just to be a better wrestler, but be a better person. Like when you get to know Dan and the things that he does, and yeah, it's just I'm so grateful to both to him, to Skylar, and obviously through Dan, I then got to meet Dax. And last year when I was really kind of in a bit of a bad space, I guess. Like I got to spend a bit of time with Dax, and he gave me some really encouraging words of advice that kind of helped me change the way I was looking at my life at that point, and really set me on a path of getting on with my life and actually being proactive about it and not just dwelling on something that had just happened. Like I don't know, it's hard to really articulate it, but he really did help me. And and anytime, like recently they were here in Manchester and I got to catch up with them both again, and it's just an absolute blessing to have them in my life. Like I can't say enough good things about both of them, about Skylar, but yeah, and Dan in particular, man, he's a brother to me.
Yeah, I've said obviously the past 2 years that for me FTR is the top tag team. Do you know what I mean? They're great in the ring.
Yeah. Like I mean that's something I've said for a long time. But they also wrestle a style of wrestling that I love. Like that's like always the thing that probably kind of again helped me form that friendship with Dan all those years ago, is that there's a lot of similarities in the tastes that we have in wrestling and people that we enjoy watching. I was always a big Tully Blanchard fan, and modelled a lot of my heel work around that. And then obviously he and Dave went on to basically be inspired by Arn and Tully, and become the new generation of that, and then build on what those guys have done. But yeah, just phenomenal wrestlers. I think like the two guys that anytime they're on, I want to see what they're doing. I mean that match, the 2 out of 3 falls last week with Jay and it was incredible, because I remember watching the one the week before going, Christ, how are they going to top that? I mean, like, that one was so good. Now they got 2 out of 3 falls, and then you watch that, and I remember sitting there after going, why did I even question them? Why was I that stupid? It was absolutely phenomenal. Like all those guys, just incredible talents.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got our first question today from a fan. It says, from Mark Brown, cage match at NGW or BWR?
The cage match between me and Myers was at NGW. I have not done a cage match at BWR. I think I've only done the tables and a ladder match at BWR. Maybe wrong. Can't remember. We definitely haven't done a cage at BWR.
Right. Okay. So obviously you mentioned Myers obviously a few times. So I'll talk about obviously meeting Myers and obviously working with him.
Oh, the story of how we met does not paint me in a good light at all. So I guess I've always had a few anger issues, let's put it that way. But anyway, so when I was a kid, we was 4 years old, 5 years old maybe. Matty was 4, I would have been 5. And the first time we meet was he got sat next to me in like reception class, and he was just annoying as hell. He just kept talking and talking and asking questions, asking questions. Like, will you shut up? Like, and I'd say to him, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna stab this pencil in your hand. Matty doesn't shut up. Well, I'm a man of my word, even at 5 years old. Boom! Matty said you can ask him this story like to this day. He just remembers him just raising his hand, going white, and then just screaming like what's just happened. And I'm like, oh, what have I just done? So we weren't friends, and but then funny enough, it was wrestling that brought us together. There was like we was about 8 years old, perhaps, and there was a bring your toys to school day, right? And Matty brought his Nitro ring, and I bought like a few WCW figures as well. And we would like because loads of people watch WWF, but not that many people watch WCW as well in primary school, at least in our era. So we're talking like 1998 right now. And so we were like that was the thing that got us. Like, you watch WCW as well? Yeah, yeah. And at the time, like I was like, I actually prefer it. He was like, oh, me too. And that was it. We just become best friends, and we did. Like from that day on, like I'm an only child. Matty had an older sister, but like that was again, like I said, like Dan's a brother to me. Matty's another one. Like we just grew up together. Like we fought each other a zillion times. Like as kids, like we've had a few little scraps against each other. Like I was the best man at his wedding, which was an absolute blessing. Like we've just we've and then wrestling together. I mean, that's a big part of our lives. Like we grew up backyard wrestling together. We grew up looking for wrestling schools like on the internet, and we started training at the same place. We debuted pretty much like a week apart, and then and yeah, he was always the gifted one. That's one thing I will always say. Like Matty was, I've had to really like I was always like naturally charismatic, and so that shone through quite a bit more, I guess. But in regards to athleticism and just getting this, like Matty's insanely good. Like it's just that he was never. I don't think he ever actually saw this as a career. I think it was just something that he really wanted to do and experience. And like full respect to him for that. But when it comes to just being like, there was a few months back, he'd not wrestled in like 6 months, and we had this quite a lengthy tag team match against R&R at BWR, one that I was extremely proud of. In fact, it was a tournament, so we wrestled twice that day as well. And like Matty's not wrestled in 6 months, and he goes out and and I said, like all of us said afterwards, like how after just 6 months of you like not being anywhere near a ring, like, and you can just go in and just do it like that again. Like even I would have to go to training and get through the ropes a couple of times or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I think he hit the ropes maybe before the show, but you know what I mean? Like I feel like I'll at least want to get into a ring at training and call a match, but he just can go out and he's just such a natural at wrestling. He's so good, and that was the thing. We just bonded us, and then I went off and when I joined the All Star team at 19. Obviously, I was on the road a lot, so I didn't. But the time that I did come home, like Matty lived right around the corner from me, and across the road was our other very close friend Andy, and so I'd just hang out with the boys when I come home again. And to this day, like it's a friendship all three of us have kept, and I think like you get to a point where it's like, well, we're lifers now, we're in it forever. But yeah, I mean, in regards to our matches, quickly off the surface, like the first time we wrestled the main event was for Eternal Glory NGW 2011, and Matty beats me for the championship. And I just remember being so proud of that match, just because we had him, like all the way through, we had him. And like the reaction when Matty won, like the fans legitimately broke through the guardrail to storm the ring and hold him on the shoulders. And I remember like crawling away and just looking back at that and seeing it. And it was like an artist being able to appreciate like people in a gallery, I guess, like watching this stuff, because wow, we just helped make that happen. And then when I came through the back, someone who was very special to me, Rampage Brown, who was a big mentor to me when I joined All Star Wrestling, and just been like a big brother to me, pretty much since I met him. He was stood there giving like an applaud, and that meant the most to me in the world, because I genuinely do. I did then, and I do to this day. Like I rate him as one of the absolute best wrestlers to ever come out of Europe. He's an absolute phenomenal wrestler. So to get his respect from that as well, that was really cool. And then, as I mentioned, the cage match when we main evented at the whole City Hall, that was amazing. But we've main evented City Hall like 3 times against each other, and all three of them. What I love about them is that they can tell like a connecting story. Like if you watch the first one, like the second one's like the sequel, and then the third one's like the big epic. Like let's tie the story together. And I'm so proud of the fact that we got to do that in our hometown, and there's people that know us that went to school with us, and they're now bringing their kids to the show and like I went to school with those two lads, and it's like so humbling, and it's incredible, absolutely incredible, like that we've been able to have this friendship for so long and to experience so much within wrestling together, and it all stemmed from us just being fans of wrestling. And like I say, if it weren't fans of wrestling, I'd still be the dickhead that stabbed him with a pencil.
That's brilliant, sir. Oh, that's got to be the best story ever. So talk about obviously forming Second to None.
So Second to None was originally was Matty and Lucas Steele at BWR, and Lucas was a student of mine. But after the pandemic, he just decided, like, it was before then. I remember him doing his second tour of Japan, and he was really missing his daughter. And I remember him kind of like, I was like, "Are you sure you still want to do this, Lucas?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, I love it." I'm like, who are you trying to convince, man? Like I could kind of tell like his heart was starting to not be in it. And so yeah, once the pandemic hit and he got to spend more time at home with his daughter and see her grow up, like he made that decision, like this is it, I'm done. Like I'm stepping away. So essentially they needed someone to replace Lucas. Mike was like, well, who better than the guy who trained him? And like it'd be cool to do like a heel tag team with Nathan. Like we've never been a tag team anywhere at this point. We're just like the odd show NGW where we would team up, but nothing substantial as a tag team. And obviously, I love tag team wrestling. So yeah, as soon as they came out of the pandemic, I came in and we became like the new Second to None, and I just ran with it from there. To be honest, like I've absolutely, again, going back to earlier when I said like there's so many things now that I'm like that might be one of my favorite things that I've done. Getting to do this tag team with Myers has been so cool, like so good. Like I've loved everything that we've done from the standpoint of being just out there together and bouncing ideas off of each other, and because we can really help. Like we get onto a different level when we're together with stuff like that. And then to all the things that we've done for BWR in regards to, we helped elevate Jimmy McIlwee from this kind of comedy character to like he can show that he's got heart and he can fight. And what we did with introducing R&R and our eventual, like our babyface turn came because the crowd was just starting to enjoy our matches. Like we were coming out, and instead, like as much as we could cheat, and I mean, the last time they'd seen it when we did lose the tag titles, like we try every dirty trick in the book. Like we're still absolute assholes at this point, but there was such a show of respect from the audience because consistently for the last like year we'd given them quality tag team matches and really made the tag division mean something in BWR. And so then coming back now and being baby faces and again giving back in our students R&R, like me and Matty both trained Reese and Rogan, and to now be working with them at BWR and NGW and getting to do the Second to None thing with Matty and all of it tied together. It's just like when I think of Second to None, I think of all of the cool stuff that we've done post lockdown. Whether it, like I say, giving back and just being that tag team and really working on making tag team wrestling mean something in a promotion where they're coming out of the lockdown. Like we need to reestablish everything. Well, let's really show them we've got a strong tag division here. And hopefully it's something that we're going to now be bleeding into NGW going forward. Like we did our first one at the last Hull City Hall together, our first Second to None appearance there. It was just, even if it was just that, that'll be amazing. But I just, after feeling it out there, I was like, I think we can get a bit more if we're not doing like if we do it a bit longer at BWR, or if they want to pull the plug on it there. I feel like we can still run with it here at NGW. Like we've kind of built a brand that we can take to other places with it, and getting to team with them is just, like I say, it's another little dream come true where you're like, cool, like, hey, we used to do this in the backyard, mate, and now we're getting paid to do this. This is sweet. This is so cool.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So I want to get your opinion obviously on the British wrestling scene because over the last I want to say a couple of years it's changed dramatically. Would you agree?
Oh God, yeah, yeah. It's I mean, I've seen it go in a few different ones now. Like when I first started wrestling in 2006 and seeing where it was then, it was it wasn't doing so good. Like other than one PW at the time, like that was the only place. All Star would have still been doing good houses consistently, but those other smaller independents, like it was on its ass. Like it was really bad. Um, and so that was why the big goal for so long was to just get to All Star. Like you couldn't like that. At least that was mine. Like I was like, I just want to get to All Star. And then in that time though, there was a boom that happened. Like I think there was a lot of people that started to really want to make something of the British wrestling scene that came up in different pockets all across the country. Whether it was what NGW was doing up in Hull, what it was Sam Bailey started to build in Manchester, what it was like further down south when the emergence of Progress and things like that. Like there was, or in the Midlands, of course, there was so many coming out of there with like Damien Dunn, Pete Dunn, all those guys. It was just started like exploding, and it was like, well, this is actually like something's actually starting to pick up on the British scene here, and there was a lot of fresh content coming out there, and I think just because of that fresh content, it bred a whole new culture towards British wrestling. So that by the point we get to like 2012, you've got sort of an influx of all this young talent come to these training schools, and now I feel that you were at the point where you can really see just how good they are and the impact that that's had on the country overall. And the biggest telltale sign of how talented the British wrestling scene is at the moment, for me at least, was coming out of the lockdown. Like we know the British economy is on its ass. Like it is knackered, right? But despite that, there's still a big demand for the shows such as 1PW, Progress, Rev Pro. They're all doing great. All Star still doing great numbers. First Class still doing great numbers. I saw the North did 700 people. When we did the whole City Hall, it was close to 800 people. Like everywhere's still doing great business. So there's clearly a demand there for the talent that British wrestling is at the moment. I don't deny that the popularity overall of wrestling is also contributing to that. But again, it's not like they're coming to watch British wrestling and then they go, like it was all right, but it wasn't what it's good as what they see on the TV. Like they're actually enjoying it for what it is and enjoying that experience, and they want to come back. I see, as I mentioned at the start when I said I do commentary for Wrestle Carnival, there's two old ladies that have been friends for years, and they go to wrestling shows together, and they've seen me since I was a teenager, just out of All Star, and like just like that's, do you know what I mean? Like that's still like a thing that's going on the scene. I just think we're very fortunate to see just how diverse people can be right now as well, in the sense of whether I agree with it or not. You can see someone be a heel somewhere, and you can see someone be a babyface somewhere, and you can see people work so many different styles now because of how certain promotions will promote the style that they want as well. Whether they'll, it's just I just think it was things that I never got as a kid. Is essentially what I'm getting to. Like when I was going to watch wrestling shows as a teenager, you'd get All Star once every 4 months would come to town. Maybe there might be the odd thing with like a big import name coming in, but you'd literally be going just to see, Gangrel or D'Lo Brown or something like that. And then you might have a few others from the British scene coming in, but it wasn't anything like it is now. Like compared to like seeing the popularity that some of these people that we're getting now, and like I look at Darius. Darius is just like I'm so proud of him and to see how hard he's worked for it. But like, yeah, I'm really rambling now. But overall, like, I
No,
think
it's
the
fine.
British
Carry on.
scene's, yeah, no, I just feel like the British scene's doing so good right now. Like I'm at a point that I really look back. I look around, sorry, in the change rooms these days. I'm like, there's so many people that I want to work with right now. Like it's yeah, and it's I think that's a great time for the fans. And like I say, if the crowds are still coming in, that says something that's right now, like in this economy, that people have to really watch their money, but they're still making sure that they've got that money set aside to come watch the wrestling. is
Yeah.
really cool. Like that speaks a lot about the British scene, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. I fully agree. So I want to move obviously from wrestling slightly because someone told me you're a fan of Godzilla. Please elaborate.
Oh yeah, well look at the T-shirt. Here we are. That's Mecha Godzilla right there. 70s Mecha Godzilla, Heisei Godzilla in the background. Yeah, I just again there was something else as a kid that I just absolutely loved. Like my dad used to put them on Channel 4, and they were just my dad thought it was funny because obviously it's just two guys in rubber suits boxing away or whatever. And as a kid, though, you're just like, oh wow, this is a big mutated dinosaur. And I loved Jurassic Park. I was one of my favorite films. So then, yeah, it was just a natural thing that, like, when the 1998 Godzilla film came out, as much as it wasn't Godzilla, it was a great like introduction to it as a young kid, and then getting to then fall in love with like the Japanese movies and stuff like that. It's been an obsession that I still have to this day. I've got a nice Godzilla collection in the toy room, like an entire wall that's got so much stuff on. And yeah, here I am wearing the T-shirt.
That kind of brings me on to my next question because it says toy collection. So I mean, I kind of love this type of thing.
Yeah, so like yeah, I've got a toy collection. In the pandemic we started a YouTube channel called Inside the Toy Room. We don't upload episodes anymore, but they're still up there. If people want to go check it out. Although the toy room has grown a little bit since then. But yeah, toy collecting for me is another hobby. But for more than anything, like it started touching nostalgia again of like the stuff I collect is all from like the nineties, as I mentioned when I bought that master tape, and so I've got like
Mhm.
toys from Batman animated series, the X-Men, Power Rangers, Spider-Man. It's all the stuff like that kind of reminds me of my youth, I guess, and I kind of can go in and escape and appreciate that. And I've got like my comic collection in there, so I can go in and just read my comics and just sit around and pretend like I don't have bills to pay and a house to clean for a little while and just shut off for a bit. But yeah, I absolutely love that toy collection.
That's brilliant. Mr. Isaac says favorite Godzilla film.
It would be the original Godzilla 1954, but a close second is Godzilla versus King Ghidorah from 1991 with Mecha King Ghidorah at the end. But like, I just thought that was Godzilla just looks so badass in that one. That was like Heisei Godzilla is my favorite era of Godzilla.
So are we thinking of expanding the toy collection? Then we're going to get an extra room.
Well, no, this is the thing though. I'm at capacity. Like I really am. I've purposely left a couple spaces recently on the last jig around for a couple things that I know that I want to just characters that I don't have yet in my collection that I'd like to display on my wall. But yeah, until the time that I move to a bigger house, get a bigger toy room, I think I'm gonna have to accept the fact that I am at capacity now. Like it's impossible to. I would have no space. Like I've had to box up some stuff at the moment and kind of just display the display packaging instead of the actual set or whatever. So yeah.
That's brilliant. So obviously, a couple of fans obviously got the chance to ask a couple of questions. I don't know how much you know about these ones, but one fan asked, "What happened to WrestleGate in Nottingham? Do you know anything about this?"
That went on to become Wrestle Carnival, essentially.
Oh,
It's the same promoter, Gary Ward. Yeah, he went on to start Wrestle Carnival instead after that happened with WrestleGate. But yeah, that's about it.
there you
That's
go.
all
That's
I
an
know
easy one for
anyway.
you. And the other one was, "Do you miss the old shows at Beverley Memorial Hall?"
I do like where there used to be for our NGW training school, Proving. It was called Proving Ground. And yeah, I did enjoy those shows. There was always good. There was like the chance that I'd get to work with like some of the students that I'd see like the potential in. Like one in particular, I can't believe I didn't mention him earlier, is Miles Kamen. He is like, yeah, he's got it, man. He's just got it. He's incredibly talented. He's so good at being. Just, I'm so proud of him. Like he had a killer main event the other week at BWR. But again, he's someone that I got to wrestle on those proving grounds all those years ago, like 2018, I believe it was. So yeah, I do miss those shows at the Beverly Memorial Hall. Yeah, who knows? NGW may go back there, may not go back there. We'll see. I don't know.
Mark Brown says, "You are clearly a phenomenal trainer, evident by the match that has been showcased at the Evo shows."
Thank you very much. Yeah, those Evo shows are they're such a treat for me to be there on show day, and like I get excited because like even though it's a long day for me because like obviously there's the academy show in the daytime and then we'll do the main BWR show in the evening. It does just I just wake up absolutely buzzed. I can't wait for it because they go out and smash it. There's so many of them that I could like from like as the people that I've mentioned from recent Rogan. There's Vusic that's coming through the academy that is absolutely incredible. Immensely proud of what he has already achieved and where I feel he can go against someone else who's just got it. It's like there's a character called Hardman Dan, but like don't let that name like like and the name's kind of like the joke in some sense, but like he's come on so well in the last few years in particular. Jack Maxwell, there's another one. He's doing Jack McKilwee now at BWR. But yeah, I could go on forever about my students, but like, those Evo shows are so. There's just a great treat for me. I get to sit back and just watch how how well some of them have come on, since especially against so few of them. They've been with me prior to the pandemic, like in their early stages, but when they've really got into it, like just coming out of it, and like they've really just committed to it. Like they've really, I think the pandemic has made a lot of people assess things, and like I think the ones that really wanted to make something of this, it's really gone. Yeah, okay, I'm going to give everything to it, and like Hardman Dan and Vusic, they'd be two people that I've seen that in that was with me prior to the pandemic, and then after it, and seeing how well they've gone after it, I'm so proud of them. Those Evo shows are an absolute treat, man, to watch.
Yep. Matt Brown says the British talent has the pace to surpass the US. We are looking forward to seeing more from the Evos.
Amazing. No, yeah, thank you. I mean, it's horses for courses. I mean, some people prefer the British style. I mean, there's a lot of it's kind of merged now with the North American, Japanese influenced hybrid that's kind of come about these days. But no, that's really flattering to hear, Mark. Thank you very much. Again, couldn't be any prouder of the students coming out of our academy.
Yep. So one little more question as we begin to wind down. What's the goals? Are we talking short term and long term?
I now like this is weird for me because in some ways because I don't really have any long like I'd like to obviously have another like contract in wrestling that would help, and if it was one of the major ones in North America, even better. But I kind of circled that with WWE with what happened with my medical there. But so now I just it's kind of difficult. I'm in a stage of like I said, I just want to enjoy it. I'm just gonna that's my main thing. And if anything, I kind of have something in my mind. Like I say, on August 26th this year, 17 years to the day that I had my first match. And I've kind of made up in my mind that probably when I get to the 20-year mark, unless I've got a contract keeping that regular income in, that'll be probably when I'll say goodbye to it. But in the meantime, just enjoying it. Just that's my only ambition for it now. I just want to enjoy doing it and not stress myself out about hoping that because that's the thing is I know what I'm like. Like if I do say okay, so my ambition is to now get signed by this place, whatever of the major companies, right? I know then it wouldn't be about just going to a progress and enjoying it. It'd be like, oh, did that get enough attention? Did this get enough? And then I just don't want to fall into that because then it becomes miserable, honestly. Like it did for me anyway at one point, and I don't want it to become that again. I, thoroughly enjoy loving wrestling, both watching, performing, everything about it. So I don't want it to become a headache in my life again.
And that's an amazing thing to end on. So before we obviously head off, Nathan, is there anything you want to plug, my friend?
Yeah, so all my merchandise is available at nathancruz.bigcartel.com. Got second to none t-shirts, Nathan Cruz second to none t-shirts, 8x10s on there as well, and bundle deals that you can get. Social media, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Nathan_Cruz90. The Facebook, if you ever do come across my Facebook, my personal Facebook, please don't add me. It's my personal Facebook for my personal friends and family, and yeah, I'd like to keep that private, so please respect my privacy there. But this doesn't matter how many times I put a disclaimer out there, but I still get certain fans the ones I'm like, guys, come on, there's a line. I am a performer. Like, let me just have my privacy somewhere. But yeah, you can follow me on those other avenues that I've mentioned. Like I say, check out the website. And yeah, on YouTube, there's a few matches floating around. So if you want to check out, I know there's a lot of people that have streaming services, but there's quite a lot of like I've had 1,800 odd matches now, so there's a few floating around on YouTube. If you do want to check some of them out, that cage match that I mentioned with Myers, for example, that's on his YouTube channel, in fact. So yeah, go check that out because it's a personal favorite of mine.
Awesome, Nathan. Thank you so much for having a decent chat with us, and enjoy the rest of your week, my friend.
No, thank you very much, Liam. Appreciate having me, man.
Not a problem. So don't forget the Magical Wrestling Games back this Saturday as we're taking a look at video games. Are you a gamer, by the way?
No, not really. I just don't really have the time now. The only game I really play now is Need for Speed Heat. I have it installed on my PS4, so I'm not even able to have a modern console because I can put it on for like 10 minutes, have a quick play, and I can put it down and have to get on with whatever I've got to get on with. So, not really a gamer, unfortunately.
And on that note, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.